31 Days of Horror with Mark.
Hello. So I'm not streaming this one as well. I think I'm going to try and just kind of record a whole bunch of them because it's a wee bit easier to live stream because I'm effectively recording the footage, downloading the footage, and then uploading it onto YouTube anyway. So for a few of them anyway, I'm just going to do a quick, just a kind of talk through review kind of thing. And the intention will be, so I'm not just going to watch the film I'm about to talk about, but I will also watch something else after I've kind of posted this up. So I've just rewatched the Fright Night Remake. Ooh, it's reflecting in itself. That's kind of almost meta. Woo. Right. So Fright Night Remake, and I know I know I'm gonna garner shit. I know there's several people, like several kind of friends I know that are gonna hate me in a second. Don't care. This is better than the original. So I think through the course of this, I'm going to try and do a few kind of originals versus remakes. I was going to kind of watch them simultaneously. I think I mentioned when I watched the Nightmare on Elm Street remake. But for the purpose of this, I'm not going to rewatch Fright Night. I didn't want to. It wasn't a good film. As far as I remember, but I've got, for example, the original Ring trilogy over there. I've only ever seen the remake. I've never seen the original, so I'll kind of flip on its head as well. It usually tends to be a wee bit kind of sacrilege to turn around and say that you prefer the remake over the original. And yeah, whilst I understand that there's some untouchable kind of ones out there, at the same time, you can't be super precious about these kinds of things. I know myself, because sooner or later it is going to get remade, whether you like it or no. As much as, for example, Robert Zemeckis says that Back to the Future remake will happen over his dead body. That is quite literally what he means. As soon as, obviously, hopefully he doesn't kind of pass away for like many years. But yeah, eventually all our classics will be remade, or sequelized, or requeled, is like I like to call the rebooted sequel. So for example, Halloween 2018 is a requel as far as I'm concerned. So ones that just completely disregard everything that kind of came after a certain point kind of thing. So yeah, Fright Night. So why do I think it's better than the original? So straight up, the first thing is the cast. Probably the only memorable cast member I remember for the original is Chris Sarandon, but that's just because genuinely I think whenever he was in anything, Princess Bride for example, whenever he kind of popped up, you knew you were getting a decent and fun performance film, and like he never disappoints, and he is good in the original. And that's about it. The guy that plays kind of Ed, you just want to smash his face in, and I think that's potentially the point. I think he's supposed to be like this annoying wee prick. But then that's potentially why they cast Christopher Mintz-Plasse as Ed in this one as well. So I can kind of see where they were kind of going with that. But yeah, thankfully you have to kind of deal with him too long. I don't think he's a particularly terrible actor. I just think he's unfortunately been kind of typecast pretty much as soon as he got out the gate in terms of acting. In that, he was Superbad McLovin straight away, and that's all he's ever really done. It's variations on the same thing. Not saying I could do any better. Like if you've seen any of my acting for any of my previous kind of like college work and everything, you know I couldn't do any better. But it also means that I'm still like, yeah, then I kind of really rate him. So I'd probably say he's probably one of the, not even a misfire in casting, because I see where they were going for it, and he isn't actually terrible when he's actually in it. So I seem like I'm actually just kind of ripping on him, but yeah, no, not at all. I think he's actually all right in it. But everybody else is on top from the late Anton Yelchin. It's still fairly kind of grim that somebody so young kind of passed away in such a ridiculously tragic kind of accident. So that still kind of saddens me. But like, he was really, really kind of good in the stuff I've seen him in. For like Star Trek, as much as everybody hates it, he was Terminator Salvation. I quite like Terminator Salvation. Again, potentially kind of losing any kind of credibility I've actually got here at all. But Anton Yelchin, I think, is actually really kind of good as the lead. Colin Farrell as well, in that I think he is a little bit on the underrated side in general. I don't think I really can ever sat through a film where I actually thought he's awful, and that does actually include Daredevil. I know that everybody hates Daredevil. Again, I whatever kind of cred I actually had, I think I'm potentially losing right now. But yeah, like, I liked him. You've also got fantastic supporting cast: Imogen Poots, Toni Collette, who keeps popping up in horror and absolutely smashing it. You don't know what I'm talking about. Jesus Christ, totally and utterly gay. Hereditary, I watch. It is not for everyone. It's one of those ones. If you kind of watch my review from Andy, you know the kind of film I'm talking about. So Hereditary is not for everyone, but it is really, really good. And David Tennant. So David Tennant, I think, was relatively fresh off of Doctor Who. Like, I think this was like one of the first things he'd done after Doctor Who, and it does seem like a lot of the kind of Doctor Who actors tend to kind of fade into the kind of the ether. I think there's the whole thing called the Doctor Who kind of curse kind of thing, whereby they actually like disappear into obscurity, or they find trouble getting work afterwards and what have you, kind of thing. Tennant's definitely no one of them. Tennant's actually kind of been popping up in kind of projects, film and kind of TV wise, mainly TV. And for what I can hear, he smashes it as in Des, the one about the serial killer kind of thing. So yeah, fairly kind of like strong. But again, he's in his absolute element. He plays this douchey stage magician, and like he plays it like he is having an absolute blast. I would probably say most of the comedic lines actually come from him, because at its core, this is probably no as fun a film as it possibly could be, but it is also like, it is kind of peppered with kind of humor and stuff like that. Some of the CG, I probably kind of say outright, is pretty dated these days. There's a few kind of moments where you're just like, that looks a bit thingy. But I think they did actually spend a lot of time on kind of practical effects as well. Apparently a lot of the makeup effects were actually going to be done practically as well, which always gets praised in my book if they're actually willing to kind of do it practically. So in case you kind of haven't ever kind of seen the remake or the original, the whole premise essentially is Rear Window with a vampire. So again, if you haven't seen Rear Window, that's potentially kind of losing you. But basically, Guy's neighbour is a vampire, like pretty much. They didn't really kind of make any kind of attempts to hide it. Like, there's no like ongoing kind of like mystery as to is he, isn't he. They just basically just slap you in the face with it. Pretty much, I think about 5 minutes in, like it's pretty much established that, like, you know, it is exactly what it says on the tin, kind of thing. As I say, Colin Farrell is having, again, is another one seeming to have an absolute kind of blast, kind of playing the villain. Which, you know, fair enough. Like, if you kind of watch Daredevil, you kind of like seen his kind of scene tune performance and that. This, I think, is a little bit more subdued. I mean, like, he definitely has a little gnaw on the scenery every once in a while, but at the same time, he is quite menacing. Like scenes where like he just kind of appears and he's kind of talking to like somebody over like the threshold of the kind of like the house, and everything is very kind of unsettling the way he kind of does it. But again, he's obviously having a lot of kind of fun with it. I think the reason I don't kind of really rate the original that much, again, I think I'd mentioned this with the Nightmare on Elm Street kind of thing, is the rose tinted glasses type thing, which I refer to. So again, a lot. This seems to be primarily 80s films, but back in the day, like if you watched a film when you were kind of younger, and even if it isn't a fantastic film, but like it spoke to you in some kind of level whatsoever, like you form an attachment to that kind of film. And so, for example, there's loads of kind of films. I think I mentioned this as well. So, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, Yvonne loves. I didn't really rate at all. But then on that same token, Never Ending Story, I loved when I was a kid. I still kind of have that that nostalgic feeling when I watch it. It's like this was like a huge fantastical thing when I was a kid, and therefore again, when Yvonne watched that, she didn't rate it at all. So it's rose tinted films are a weird one because, as I say, there are ones that kind of hold up no matter what. As I say, like the aforementioned, I kind of mentioned this beforehand, but like for example, Back to the Future, I know a few like people that didn't really kind of rate that, and like things like Jaws and E.T., mainly anything Spielberg, just to kind of like curb that straight away. Like back in the 80s, like it's one of these things whereby if you rewatch it now, you're still like, yeah, that's a great Spielberg film. So I think potentially the reason I didn't really kind of rate it is I didn't grow up watching it. Like, potentially if I'd watched the film when I was a kid, I probably actually would have kind of formed that kind of bond with it. But rewatching it as an adult, or watching it for the first time as an adult, I kind of watched it and I just, as I say, I didn't rate anything with it. The special effects are pretty kind of awesome. If I remember, like the makeup effects and everything on the kind of lass in the original was really kind of cool with the fucking horrible smile teeth thing. That really freaked me out. Again, Chris Sarandon, as I say, is really, really good in it. Lead is kind of like a wet noodle, and as I say, the less said about like Evil or Ed, the better, because like, yeah, like he just grates on you a lot. So yeah, this doesn't really kind of waste any time getting kind of so the remake doesn't really kind of waste any time getting started. As I said, it pretty much just kind of flings you in with just fairly kind of like graphic opening scene. The violence, like, fair enough, you got CG blood, and like as much as I can understand these days that it's kind of cleaner and what have you, like it's still there's still a little bit missing if you get that like awful looking CG blood splatter. Thankfully this isn't kind of too bad, but yeah, at the same time you're sitting there going, oh, why wouldn't you just use some kind of like mechanical effect to make it look really kind of cool. So yeah, that's a wee bit of a pisser as well. But yeah, so overall, I like the remake a lot more because I'm entertained by everybody in it. Like, as I say, all the characters actually kind of like, I think are all well acted. As I say, you got fairly kind of like with like horror remakes, you do tend to get maybe like a couple of the core cast being kind of like fairly kind of big names. Like, for example, the Dawn of the Dead remake, you had Ving Rhames, you had Sarah Polley kind of basically bolstering a cast of kind of, I wouldn't say relative unknowns. For example, Ty Burrell's in there being an absolute douche, but it doesn't tend to like have like a vast array of A-listers kind of in there. And what's it called? Fright Night is the exception to that kind of curve. It says it's got Colin Farrell, it's got Toni Collette, it's got Anton Yelchin, as I kind of mentioned, Christopher Mintz-Plasse, Imogen Poots, David Tennant. So these are fairly kind of big names, which is quite weird for a horror remake. I could be wrong, I'll need to kind of have a wee kind of look through, but like, for example, the Nightmare on Elm Street remake, Jack Earl Haley, I think at the time when I kind of first watched it, was the only kind of big person I kind of knew. And then everybody else, I was kind of like Rooney Mara, I think that was the first thing I ever seen her in. Katie Cassidy, definitely first thing I seen her in. Then she kind of came into kind of Arrow, and then I recognised her in that. But yeah, like it does tend to be kind of maybe, you know, huge. Like you might get one one A-lister in it, and then everybody else is kind of relative kind of unknowns kind of thing, or straight for kind of TV. No, kind of mean to sound horrible, but I think that's how a lot of kind of actors kind of get transition, like for TV. Like you'll notice that 9 times out of 10, a TV actor or actress will kind of jump straight into a horror film. So yeah, but this is as I say, is an exception to the rule. Very well directed. Can be dark in points, but again, it's not as if you're kind of squinting to see. Like probably the worst offender of that, there's a film called The Collector, which I genuinely sat through the entire film squinting at it, trying to kind of see, and it was a design choice by the actual kind of by the actual director, and I never understood it. So this isn't that bad, but there's points where you're just kind of like, maybe brighten up a little bit. I mean, they are in the middle of the desert, so that makes sense. Like they live just off the just outside of Vegas. That kind of makes sense. But obviously, well, if they, I don't know if it was maybe a budgetary thing, but like if they maybe even kind of shot like a scene or something in Vegas, but like actually like on the streets, it might have been quite cool. But again, I reckon that's probably relatively pricey to actually kind of do, much like kind of filming in New York. Say some of the CG effects are a bit ropey. It's fairly action packed. It doesn't really get, as I say, it doesn't really kind of slow down. It kind of slaps you in the face and keeps slapping you until the film ends. So yeah, so that's my 2 cents. I'm probably just going to keep waffling on or repeating the same things again, so I'm not going to kind of keep going there. But yeah, I'm going to go and watch something else, I think, before my good lady arrives home. If you guys are liking these, please tell your friends. Even if it's just to kind of disagree with me in the comments. Probably this might have been one to actually live stream, just to kind of see if I'd get like a few kind of like scathing comments from probably Mouse and my friend Sarah. I think probably would have actually kind of tore me a new one. But yeah, very much enjoyed. I'm going to try and keep doing these each day. But yeah, if you are watching, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again.